Hey guys, and welcome to another review. I'm Unblessed Data, and this time we have The Walking Dead Season 3 Episode 7 up for review. This episode's actually titled, When the Dead Come Knocking. What a cool title, and I actually really like when shows have really interesting, cool titles, and especially when they're like puns. That's just the best to me, in my opinion. But this episode was really good, and it's really building up to the mid-season finale, which will be next week. Episode 8 is actually the mid-season finale, which kind of sucks. I don't want to miss Walking Dead for, I don't want to have a little break, but oh well, what can you do? At least we're getting something. So, let's go over this episode, and then I'll, give you my thoughts and everything, and yeah. So, a couple of important things happened this episode, but I'll just go in kind of order of what happened, and when something important comes up, I'll basically elaborate on it, but here we go. So, we start off in Woodbury, and we see Glenn, and he's being interrogated by Merle. So, basically where it left off from the previous episode, and I was just so scared for Glenn. I mean, I really didn't want him to die. Glenn's one of my favorite characters, so I really don't want to see him go. And, I was just kind of clutching onto my sofa, like, the whole time, like, please don't die, Glenn, please don't die. But, we'll find out what happens to him later. But he's really toughing out, and basically this episode is really Glenn becoming a man, really, because what he did for his group and what he did for basically Maggie, it really showed that he's a man now. He's not some kid, like in the first season where all he really did was get supplies and stuff. No, now he's doing his part, he's pulling his weight, he's doing the right thing for his group. And another interesting thing, when Merle's like interrogating Glenn, he's basically like hurting him, torturing him, stuff like that, and Maggie's in the room next to them, so she can hear everything. And again, that has a lot of mental like stress. It's really relenting to hear your boyfriend, the person you're in love with, being hurt. It affects you mentally, so that, they're trying to get to her like that. And that's really similar to what happened in the comic book. And in the comic book, instead of Maggie, it was basically Michonne. So it was Michonne and Glenn, and it was kind of the same thing that was happening. So, again, the show seems to be taking events from the comic book and kind of just switching people around with them. And I think that's the big difference between the show and the show and the comic book. Personally, I like the comic book better, though, just because it's, it's more expanded at this point. But we'll see how it compares later on when the TV show has a lot more seasons. But after that, basically, Glenn basically headbutts Merle. He's really not letting down. He's not going to give up the information right away. So I was basically really proud of Glenn. Good boy. But he just got beat down by Merle. And at one point he was all bloody, bruised eyes, everything. He was really badly hurt, like bad. So then we go back to the prison. And, I was really excited to see what had happened because Michonne's right at the prison. So, Michonne's basically fighting zombies one-legged with her sword, basically as Rick watches because he doesn't, he's not going to do something right away. And she's kind of getting blurry, double vision. She's going to faint from the loss of blood because, her leg is shot. So, this is a big problem, and she kind of stumbles and falls, and two walkers are about to bite her and kill her when Carl steps up to the plate. Yeah, Carl, he's actually doing something cool. Although he has done some, important things in the last couple episodes, but this is another important thing he's done. And he basically takes out a gun and shoots the two walkers that are about to, chow down on Michonne. And Rick didn't step up and save her. He kind of just was watching, like, who cares about her? So Carl stepped up and saved her, which I think will be something that he will not regret because Michonne is an awesome, awesome character, especially in the comic book. And really in the show, I think she's more like cold-hearted in the show, honestly. She's just really, she's more tough, and she always seems to have that mean look on her face, but I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I don't know. So basically, Rick then goes and checks right away if Michonne's been bitten anywhere. So again, he's not going to let his group be prone to like danger just letting some stranger in. So he basically brings her in and they take care of her, and even what's his name? I can't believe I forgot his name. Herschel patches Michonne up, sews her back together with her bloody leg that got shot by Merle. Stupid Merle, come on. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see Merle and Daryl meet again, if they meet next episode. But I don't know what's going to happen there, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, basically at this point, if you remember from last episode, Daryl actually finds Carol. So Carol's basically reunited with the group. Everyone's hugging. Yay! Wee! Firecrackers and all that. But I'm just kidding. But anyway, she's reunited, and Michonne's kind of watching them, like, being happy, right? And I think that gave Michonne a real feel for how the group acts and what they're about. I think it really gave them a good vibe. And I'm pretty sure that she realizes that Andrea is a part of this group. This is the group that she got cut off with. But Michonne actually doesn't tell them that. And, you know, it's not said straightforward that she figures it out, but I'm pretty sure she does. I mean, Michonne's really smart. For her to survive that long by herself, I mean, you have to be smart. So I'm pretty sure she knows, but she just didn't say anything. So we'll see how that turns up too. You know, keeping secrets, it always has its repercussions. So, you know, what's going to happen there? Again, we don't know, but I'm sure next episode we'll see. And so then after that, Rick basically gets some information out of Michonne. And this is where we see, like, the harsh Rick come out again. And he basically, like, squeezes her wound. So she, you know, it's like pain. And, like, she would say the information. So he's basically torturing Michonne for information. It's kind of ironic because Merle's doing the same thing to Glenn at the same time. So it's kind of ironic that way. It's kind of showing that, you know, you're getting the lesser of two evils here. They're both wrong in some way. Woodbury's wrong in a way, and Rick and his group are wrong in a way, and it shows there's similarities there that they're willing to do the same thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But basically, Michonne tells them that all about the governor and Woodbury, and she basically tells them that Glenn and Maggie were brought there by Merle. But they actually don't know that Merle is there either. She just says that, you know, someone took her. So yeah, again, she's keeping information. You know, we obviously heard Michonne knows that Merle knows who Glenn is because they said it right when he, like, took them. So she obviously knows that, so she is keeping secrets. And after that, Carl comes up with a name to name Rick's baby. And they want to call her Judith, which is actually her name in the comic also. But they give a really stupid reason why to name her Judith. They want to name her Judith because Carl's 3rd grade teacher, her first name was Judith. That is so random and so weird. I don't understand why, but hey, I guess it works. I don't know, gotta pick a name somehow, right? We go back to Woodbury, and we see this lab full of all this equipment and stuff, and the governor's scientist is there, and he wants to do an experiment. So they're playing music, and they have this like bowl, and with this like little, it's not a spoon, but I guess you could say it's a spoon, and it generates this unique frequency. So they're doing some experiment here with this old man that's about to die. So we don't really know what's going to happen here. All we know is that it involves sound and this old man. So we don't know what's happening, but we find out in a minute. So then Merle lets a walker loose on Glenn, and he kind of steps out of the room and lets the walker in, and he's like, I want to make you feel how I felt when you left me on that roof. So, you know, I think this is Merle just getting payback, really. I don't think he cares about anything else. Well, other than reuniting with his brother, but other than that. And at this scene was amazing. It was so cool. So Glenn kind of is duct taped to a chair. So he's like jumping around with a chair on his back, trying to defend himself from the zombie. He's kicking over tables, doing all this stuff, kicking the zombie. It was a really cool scene. He ends up smashing the chair on the wall, and he just takes out the zombie, and you just see him. He's just so angry, so frustrated. It was a really, really good scene. One of my favorite scenes out of this whole series. It was that good. It was just amazing. So then the governor goes to Maggie, and this is where a similarity comes in with the comic and the TV show. You know, the governor's kind of conniving, really, and he wants to make it seem like he's on their side. So first he says, you know, tell me where your group is and we'll drive you there. You know, all he wants to know is where their group is. So it's really just a trick, just to trick her into saying where her group is, even though he's saying it in a nice way that kind of seems like, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's doing, he's gonna help me. No. So that's the first thing. When she refuses, he tells her to rip off her shirt, take off your bra, and it looks like he's gonna rape her, but he doesn't, which is weird because in the comic he does do that to Michonne. So I think the TV show's toning it down a little bit, but it's still there. we still see that the governor's like a bad guy, and I think at this point, if you don't realize that the governor's evil, you have to now after this episode. I mean, you know, you can't do that if you're a sane person. So basically Maggie was switched with Michonne in that aspect. Then we go back to the prison, and Michonne, Rick, Daryl, and Oscar go looking for Woodbury, and they're going on the woods. They're just following Michonne basically, because Michonne came from Woodbury, and they run into a small barn. It's like a barn / wood house, like a log house, and because their zombies are chasing them and they need a place to go. Well, so now this like little barn shack place is like all zombies all around it, so they don't really know what to do. They're kind of stuck. And they actually find a guy that's alive in this shack, and he's perfectly normal. He gets up with a gun. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, don't worry. And he's like, "I'm going to call the cops." At this point, we basically figure out that this guy does not realize what's going on. I mean, maybe he has some mental disorder that he's kind of stuck in the past, or maybe he just really doesn't realize it. But I don't know how that would happen, because, you know, it's been so long since, you know, this zombie apocalypse happened. How could he not know? But Michonne ends up killing him after he gets a little hostile and starts running around, so he's really dangerous. And they end up throwing the guy, his dead carcass, out to distract the zombies. So the zombies are all eating him, and they can kind of go away. So they get out of this little house thing and move on. It was a really, really disgusting scene to see him get ripped apart. But, I mean, Michonne did the right thing, I guess, because he could have killed them right there. He had a gun, and Michonne kind of just stabbed them. So, I don't know, was it a good idea? I guess so, because no one died in the group, really. But I was kind of interested to see more about this character and, like, what he was about and why he kind of thought that it was still the past. So, I would like to know that, but I guess we're really never going to know unless something happens and they end up saying it, but we really don't know. Then we go to Woodbury, and this old man that the governor scientist is doing this experiment on, he dies and he turns to a walker. Now, they play the music again, and they do the certain frequency of sound, and they ask him questions, and they actually want to see if the music and the sound kind of brings out his past memories while he's a zombie, to see if he reacts to the frequency and everything, because a lot of times music and frequencies set off something in your brain that helps you remember. So he wanted to see if that's the same thing when you're a zombie. So basically he would ask the questions when he's a zombie, and if he raised his arm, like his hand, then he knew he was answering yes. So he basically wants to get a little bit more information, so he unstraps the zombie. The zombie's like strapped down, right? So then he lunges forward, and Andrea goes, stabs the zombie that's about to kill the scientist. So, you know, she saved the scientist. I don't know if that's going to be a good move, because I don't know where the scientist is going to go. Again, I have a feeling that the scientist is going to end up going with Rick in his group. That's my opinion, what's going to happen. But after that, they bring Maggie to Glenn, and Glenn's all bloody and all this stuff, and, you know, Maggie's like, she, you know, must be really upset to see your boyfriend like that. And the governor puts a gun to Glenn, and Glenn kind of steps up and be like, you know, whatever, shoot me. And Maggie just spills the beans and basically says everything. How many people are in the group, where the group is, it's in a prison, blah, blah, blah. So, and then they just leave Maggie with Glenn, and they don't do anything else. They just close the door. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. They didn't kill them. You know, I would think they'd kill them right on the spot after they know the information, but they didn't. So that's kind of weird. But I hope Glenn and Maggie survive and get out of there with Rick, but never know. But now we basically know that the governor really wants the prison, because he basically said that they wanted the prison. They were going to go for the prison before, but it was too overrun. So he knows he wants the prison now. He's going to go after Rick. And then basically we see that Rick and his little group with Oscar, Daryl, and Michonne, they arrive at Woodbury, and they're kind of just at the gates, like sneaking around. And basically that's where it ends, other than the fact that the governor talks to Merle and basically says, if your brother's there, like, where do your loyalties lie? And that's a good question. I don't know what's going to happen with Daryl and Merle, because Merle might go with Rick, or he might want to get a revenge on Rick. We really don't know. So that's what's going to be the big thing on next episode. And my prediction is, I think Merle's going to die in the mid-season finale. That's my prediction. We'll see if it comes true or not, but I hope there's not too many deaths. But next episode looks amazing. Just from the previews, it looks ridiculous. Can't wait for that. But thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and follow me at UnblessedData on Twitter. So thanks, guys. Stay tuned for more news and reviews, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.